Hajakam bado.
Anasema anakuja.
Huyo wa sauti. Sasa hii nataka
my question goes to Millicent.
hii kwanza hii.
Inatumika chini ya jamaa.
Speaker ndio kwa speaker.
Sawa.
In your manifesto,
Sawa.
you are proposing that you will revise the 2% endowment fund to 5% so that you may fully utilize it. Is that correct?
Sure, that's right.
Yes. You want to increase it from 2% to 5%. How? In an interview on 6th March 2025, it was the Vice Chancellor herself on KTN, that is on 6th March. She was saying that even the 2% is underutilized. That is the VC herself. Because of mismanagement, financial distress, and many other reasons. So, how will you increase something that already the administration confirms is underutilized?
Okay. The proposal to increase the endowment fund from 2% to 5% is to cater for the students, the needy students who need the endowment fund. So the current endowment fund, the 2%, as stated, it was underutilized by, I believe, the Jkusa, right? Is that right? So how many students do we have here who speak Hungary? And in this case, the students have already reported to the Social Welfare Committee, and that's right. So to ensure that this process is even and the available 2% is well utilized, we will be liaising with the departments to find out the students who are under our study program because they are really needy and the students who use the Chaiperson bursary. That's why we are going
Let me take you back. As I asked, the 2%, the Vice Chancellor confirms it is underutilized. Leave alone the 5%, the 2%. Deductive logic, is it even logical to increase something that already is underutilized to 5%? That's my question. It's already underutilized.
I believe the underutilization comes in a case whereby the allocated 2% doesn't get to reach all the needy students, right? That's right. There are already funds that are supposed to be given to these needy students, but they are underutilized. In order to ensure that the needy students are reached to make it more effective, I'll just liaise with the department, the heads of departments, to identify students who are really struggling in terms of paying school fees, and the ones under the work study program because they need the endowment fund.
What I'm asking is, that 2% is enough, but the 2%, the Vice Chancellor says it is mismanaged, but it's enough. So I don't see why you like to increase it from 2% to 5%, yet they already budgeted in place, it's enough. The only problem is mismanagement.
Okay, there is the 2% which is mismanaged, right? I believe the mismanagement comes in the case whereby the needy students don't really get to get the fund. We will, my team and I will impose a policy whereby there will be two-step verification of the names of the students that apply for the endowment fund. There will be two-step verification whereby once the names are submitted to the Social Welfare and Gender Committee, we check the names to the department to check if the needy students really deserve the endowment fund.
Thank you. Silence, please. Silence. The audience, please, let's be respectful when the aspirants. So my follow-up question to you. I want to understand, do you know the difference between underutilization and overutilization?
I believe when you say underutilization, you mean that there are funds already, but the funds are not allocated appropriately. Or the money is just used in places whereby it's not required. Like funds, they are not allocated appropriately.
Thank you for your response. Then my question will be just a follow-up still. If this fund is underutilized, as you say, why don't you first go and make sure it's used are they supposed to use before you increase it to 5%?
There will be a two-step authentication of the applicants from the department, and the list will be added out to the student body for scrutinization. In this case, we will be able to identify the students who really deserve that fund and the students who have just applied and that they've been selected, but they are not needy students in that case.
Thank you. This question goes to Ms. Anna. Your manifesto bursary qualifications on previous bills.
If you look at our manifesto, we are also proposing a verification policy. We are not just giving bursaries to orphans. You need to prove that you are a needy student for you to get it.
Follow-up question. Are you aware that an orphan is also a person with only one parent?
According to law, let me explain to you according to law. The Jkusa constitution is very clear. It says that Article 7 that the constitution is supposed to be interpreted according to the Constitution of Kenya. And under the Children's Act, an orphan is a person who lacks both parents. If you lack one parent, you are a child of a single parent.
I'm glad that you are not student. So, do you understand the concept of a trust? I believe you understand the concept of a trust and an estate. So, in the case that a child has lost both parents, but is under the care of a trust or an estate, is this student needy?
No, the student is not needy. Once again, as I told you before, and allow me to repeat. We have a verification policy. Not all orphans are eligible. You need to prove you are eligible. You are a child.
My question goes to Ms. Millicent. Quick reminder to the audience. The debate does not have a winner or loser. It is simply meant to bring out the grey, to put the grey into black and white. You are a reflection of your supporters, and your supporters are a reflection of yourselves. Moving forward. So, my question goes to Ms. Millicent. Your manifesto boldly promises the publication of the list of beneficiaries before forwarding the allocation, right? Millicent, as Vice Chairperson, you are mandated to protect student welfare. Does publishing the names of the most destitute, starving, and vulnerable students for the entire university to see not violate their dignity and privacy? Okay. Ms. Millicent, your manifesto boldly promises the publication of the list of beneficiaries before forwarding for allocation. As Vice Chairperson, you are mandated to protect student welfare. Does publishing the names of the most destitute, starving, and vulnerable students for the entire university to see not violate their dignity and privacy?
We all understand that lacking is not shame. We understand that being needy is not a point of shame, right? And it's not something that anyone should be ashamed about. So by fabricating the list, by publishing the list for fabrication, we don't intend to shame anyone who has applied for the bursary. The intention for publishing the list is in order for the students to identify names that have been shortlisted in one way or another. If there was a loophole that someone who is not really needy, for instance, your classmates can be able to tell, like in most cases, your classmates, your hallmates, they can be able to tell your new neighbors. So by fabricating this list and publishing it for the public to look at it, it's not to shame anyone. Need is not a shame, and no one should not be ashamed about it. And that's why the bursary is there to help the needy students.
Okay, thank you. Maybe a follow-up. In the event that you find someone who is not needy is on that list, what are your next steps as Vice Chairperson?
Thank you. If by any chance a name is in the list and it can be proved by the student's body that that person is not needy, in the manifesto we are planning to have in the application process, we have a necessary required document, which is a supporting document. It may be work study program, document from your department, a letter from your area chief, or a letter from the dean to show that you are really a needy student. Once need arises that a name published is not a needy student, the bursary committee, the social welfare, the social welfare and gender committee would go back to the application documents and fabricate the documents to identify if the student is really needy or not from there.
Thank you.
Thank you. My question goes to Han. I have two questions. And now that you say you're a student of law, I'd like to engage you a little bit on that. Question one, I can see in your manifesto, you want to go down to crack cartels of hostels. And you're calling them Wadosi. You're calling them Wadosi, the cartels. So I want you to explain to me, who are these cartels? That is question number one. How do they operate in the system? And how do they cartel these hostels to students? Then question number two.
you're saying we have motions in the Congress that were passed, but they are not being implemented. Now you're saying that the willful non-implementation of the previous Congress bursary motions shall be grounds for impeachment. And you're saying in your manifesto, the Vice Chair will be compelled by Congress to report on this. And so my question is, who exactly are you threatening to impeach here? Who is this person are you threatening to impeach? And then, these motions that have been passed by the Congress and they have not been implemented, who should implement them?
Thank you very much for your question. I'd like to answer the second and the first. Secondly, is on the issue of impeachment. If you look at our manifesto, it clearly states that I, the Vice Chairperson, who is placed by law to issue bursary to manage the social welfare and gender to implement the bursary motion, I will be impeached. That is to ensure transparency and accountability. Secondly, on the question of who implements these motions are implemented by the people from the various dockets. For example, there is a bursary motion in place that is true was passed by Congress but is yet to be implemented. That is the position and that is the work of the Office of the Vice Chairperson and leading the Social Welfare and Gender Committee. The first question is on cartels. I want to assure the students of Jkusa that we say that we are a government that is not here to fit into leadership, but to redefine leadership itself. We are well aware that there are students who sometimes in their position, they instead of issuing hostels as they should be, these hostels are not issued according to law. I cannot provide further facts unless I have them on paper. But it is the position of Wycliffe and I, in our capacity as Chairperson and Vice Chairperson, that according to our constitutional mandate, to protect the rights of the students of Jkusa, will ensure that this no longer happens. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you. So it means you can move a motion to impeach yourself if you don't, because that's clearly falls on your docket. This issue of bursary that you say by law, it falls under your docket. So I'm asking, in an event where you fail to deliver, can you move a motion to impeach yourself?
If you look at our manifesto again, you will notice that was the saying of the Chairperson. The Chairperson stated that if I, the Vice Chairperson, fail to act in the constitutional mandate, then that is a ground for impeachment. I cannot impeach myself.
So this is a position of the Chairperson, not your position. So not your position.
It is also my position.
But the manifesto is combined. It's a combined manifesto bearing your name and the Chairperson. It means, I'm just assuming, you correct me, at the time of draft, you also went through. So it binds you and the Chairperson. So this is your vision. So are you denying it?
I'm not denying it.
So you're bounded?
Yes.
Yes.
The question was whether I can impeach myself. And I'm telling you that's not possible, but the Chairperson can table or can advocate for my impeachment. It's a process.
The last question, I'm quoting verbatim. The Speaker of the Congress shall compel the Vice Chairperson. I'm not seeing anywhere the Chairperson writing here. I'm just seeing the Speaker of the Congress shall compel you, the Vice Chairperson, to report on the status of all the unexecuted bursary motions within 30 days of your regime taking. And then you proceed to say,
any willful non-implementation shall be grounds of impeachment. And if confirmed, that title is for the chairperson and not you. Thank you.
Let's be silent. So I would like to remind the audience. That if you have a question to any of the aspirants, kindly submit your questions to the security who will bring it here in front. So my question goes to Ms. Esther. Explain to us how bursaries are constitutionally distributed. Explain to us how bursaries are constitutionally distributed. Let's start with that.
First of all, the creation of the Social Welfare and Agenda Committee.
This is a follow-up question. Were you there when your manifesto was being drafted? Were you there? Yes or no? Thank you. My next question goes to Ms. Lexi. Considering your domicile at the Bursary campus, I want you to name at least 3 security issues you feel affect students from Jkusa in the main campus currently. I'm asking what are currently the top 3 security issues facing JKUAT students at the main campus?
Currently, the top security issues that I'm had are usually during dark hours, they usually robbers around at A or at C or at B. There's usually not much security net, so students can't come from evening classes or even laboratories and pass the increase. Students can easily get raped or even assaulted. So to solve this issue, we are planning to increase patrol policies around these areas, increase the lights, so students can feel safe around these areas.
Okay, the constitution of Jkusa states that you are a chairperson of the Social Welfare Committee, which includes internal security matters. You're aware of that, right? So, in your understanding, where does your constitutional jurisdiction ends? And where does the junior police station picks up from?
As the vice chairperson, I'm going to be liaising with the head of security. I tell them about the students' concerns, we talk about how we're going to solve it, and then the security is going to talk to the police around Georgia.
So, Ms. Millicent, you implemented your policy to have the 18 school reps help identify students for the feeding program. You quietly discover that a powerful school rep whose support you need to pass policies in Congress has placed their own well-off sibling on the feeding program list. Do you publicly expose or expel the rep losing your political support, or do you quietly remove the name to keep the peace?
I would like to acknowledge that in the case whereby a student who is not ready is placed in the feeding program, and we have how many comrades do we have who sleep hungry because they can't genuinely afford food? How many of us in this house are sleeping hungry because they can't genuinely afford food? And it happens that there is a case whereby a school rep has, I assume that's not right, that the school rep has placed their well-off friend in the feeding program. That's right, that's right. In such a case, as the chair of the social welfare and the gender committee, we all understand that in a normal population, as a data science student, I'm well knowledgeable that in a normal population, you will have, in a normal population, for instance, in the student leaders, they have the Congress, you will have trustful students, and you will have someone who might want to, maybe by one chance or another, that person would wish to have someone who's well off in the list. In such a case, it's not my position to expose the school rep, because by exposing the school rep, it will lead to raising of chaos. Instead, I'll talk to the school rep personally, try to find out why he did that, acknowledge that he or she did that, sorry for that, acknowledge that that's wrong, and then from there we proceed to the student congress and raise the issue, and we see what the congress can do in such a case. But exposing to the public is not right. And if you're not in a position to do so.
Yes, Ms. Khan, I'm back to you. So, one of the things, when we are going through your manifesto, one thing that comes out clearly, you identify lack of independence from external influence as a primary bursary problem. Let us be specific. Who exactly are these external influences?
Thank you very much for your question. Previously, we have seen members of the executive, such as the chairperson, sitting in the social welfare and gender committee. It is my position and the position of our team in general that no other member of the executive, be it the chair, be it the secretary general, that is allowed to have anything to do with the bursary, as that is not provided by law.
I understand that there is a way this bursaries are allocated among the executive and the school reps. So you telling me that the SG, the chairperson, or whoever it is, does not have any jurisdiction to how they are allocated, then do you know of any unwritten constitutional law? Probably, I don't know. Are you aware that these positions are divided among the executive? Then, are you aware of that?
I am aware. And I am also aware that the offices work in collaboration. However, I am also aware that the Constitution is very clear. That the bursary shall only be handled by the vice chairperson, the 6 vice chairpersons, appointed members, and finally to the dean of students. So, any other student in the executive who works in the bursary and in the social and welfare gender committee does so illegally. They can help us identify many students, but we draw the line in actually sitting down with the committee and disbursing this bursary money.
Now what I want to understand from you, I want you to give us, including the audience, a specific and realistic scenario how your committee independence will be able to deal with these external forces.
Thank you very much for that question. As we said in our manifesto, we will not allow any executive member or any other external person to handle with this bursary committee. And as we said before, that any person who does so out of law. So personally, as the vice chairperson, I will see to it that this bursary committee is not interfered with. And as we said in also our manifesto, that any interference is grounds for impeachment.
My question goes to next. Kindly explain to us how bursaries are constitutionally distributed.
Well, when someone is trying to apply for a bursary, there's usually a platform that they apply. If you fit the requirements, either you provide the death certificate of your parents if you're an orphan, or the certificates of your parents to show that they have no income, you're given the opportunity to apply. When you apply for this bursary, the names are taken to the dean of students, they cross-check on the academics and even the fee statements to see how you can pay the school fees, and then they see if you require or are eligible to get these bursaries. Then the bursaries are taken to the bursary. They are shared to people to know if they have been applied or they have been successfully getting the bursaries, and the money that they're going to be allocated, and the money is allocated to the students.
Thank you. There have been cases or allegations that the executive members are always given each 10 slots. Are you aware? You're aware. So I want you to quote the Constitution where it explicitly explains such. Say, you kindly show us where in the Constitution the article that explains such things like the executive should be given each 10 slots.
And the roles of the gender committee, the social welfare and gender committee in Article 6b, it shows that the people who are applying for the bursaries are the ones that are supposed to be.
I'm saying, just quote an article that supports that the executive members should be given 10 slots each. So it's unconstitutional.
Yes.
So how are we going to deal with that? If in the event they happen to do the same? Because cultures are transferred.
When we find out that executives have been given these slots, but we are going to reduce that by making the system for application for the bursary public to the people applying. So if the students applying get to see their names processing through the process of the list moving from one place to another, from the council, from the meeting to the dean, they can see that the names of people who are not there have been added and they can be held accountable.
So there's an article you've quoted there. Okay. You may kindly repeat it in your
Yes.
the article you quoted before.
I was talking about the Social Gender Welfare Committee article. It's Article 6 of the roles of the Gender Committee.
Thank you.
This question goes to Madam Esther. Silence, please. Esther, are you constitutionally in charge of the gender and affairs docket? Yes. Take this. A female student comes to you with a highly credible accusation of harassment against the chairperson. To who is your running mate? Who is the chairperson? Are we get together? So, do you bring the full weight of your office against the man who you share the ticket with? Or will you deal with this internally? What you're saying about, will you stand with your tickets or will you stand with the comrades?
Once in the office, we are two separate offices. Yes, we do work together, but if we have any gross violation of conduct in Appendix 5C, it says that the executive board.
Still to you, Esther. Earlier, you did pass a question on bursaries, something that is directly under your docket. Is this a question of incompetence or something? Because this directly falls under your docket and you passed the question.
That's why we have a written constitution. I can go through it again. This is a debate that has to pass through our manifesto. But if I do want to go through the bursary process, I can go to the constitution.
So maybe a question again. Do you have a clue about bursaries? So what clues do you have about how bursaries are given in Chaiperson?
You create a link where the list of applicants apply. Then the list goes to then your vice chairperson the dean goes through it. And then they used to ask the executive if this actual student can lead it or going through the classrooms. And then we publish the final list of the list.
It means after you enter office, that's when, because if you check the constitution, under your roles, they are not much, maybe they are 4 or 5. So it means after you enter the office, it's when you take time to go through your roles and then get prepared.
Well, I do know the roles, but just I can't say specifically the actual process.
Thank you very much. Okay. Before I ask my question to you, Ms. Nexi, you quoted Article 6 of the Constitution with regards to the role of the Gender Committee, right? Article 6, but F. But when we review the Constitution, there is no such part, and Article 6 is about the constitutional review. Moving forward, my question is, handling rape cases, severe depression, and extreme poverty requires immense emotional fortitude and procedural knowledge, right? What specific experience, training or background do you have in trauma response, counseling, or severe social welfare management that qualifies you for this heavy burden?
In Mombasa campus, I am the classwork, and one of the students sadly lost one of the parents. We had to make a ceremony to go and visit their family, provide condolences, also to cater for the transport from the funeral and back. We also had to make sure that she felt comfortable around school and even comfortable around home. So using this experience, I know that we have a way on how to take care or even how to handle cases that can be serious, as losing a parent or even getting violated by assault or any other.
Thank you for your response.
This question goes to Madam Millicent. Processing 1,000 of bursary application requires immense organizational skills to avoid the opaque nature which you cited in the manifesto. Kindly tell me what the opaque nature is and describe your experience of managing massive sensitive data under pressure.
Thank you very much for that question. First of all, what we meant by the opaque nature of bursary, we simply meant that there is no way of ensuring transparency in the process, because what happens is that you apply to the email of the vice chairperson. After application to the email of the vice chairperson, they consult with the social welfare and gender committee. And then they to the dean of students, and finally the final list rolls out. This is what we call opaque, meaning that it might be okay, but it's not transparent.
Now, follow-up question. Now tell me what the transparent nature is.
Thank you very much. In our manifesto, as you can see, we have a proposed bursary process, which means that applications will be done in writing, but via the Jkusa portal, and not the email, whereby students can find a list of all the applicants, a list of all the people who are eligible, why you did not get the bursary, and why these other students got the bursary.
Describe to me your experience in managing sensitive data and massive data under pressure on the same.
Thank you very much. On that, I'd like to make it known that I am the founder of an organization that deals with sexual and reproductive health. Is in itself a very sensitive matter. We process the data of the victims who come for legal advice, and so I can say that I have experience in dealing with sensitive data.
Silence. I'm aware you're a legal practitioner, right? You know very well that handling sensitive data is a very important thing, right? Now, how do you assure us, or what is the mechanism you will take to make sure that the corporate sensitive data is prevented for accessibility? Kindly tell me how you will do it.
Thank you very much. Every time you log into any form of website, social media, you're required to sign consent. And you're also required to, the people who process your data are required to ensure that your data is maximally protected. We do not intend to show the certificates of the Congress. We do not intend to show their documents. However, names will be there, registration numbers will be there, and that is not personal data. solve in our student community? Because under the vice chair, there are different committees, right? Not only the social and gender committee. Please state the different committees that the vice chair is under.
The vice chairperson of the Jkusa Student Association, under the social welfare and gender committee, whereby I'm the chairperson. There's the campus councils committee, which is meant to bring together the separate campuses together, and the special needs committee. Those are the committees I'm incapacitated to be as the vice chairperson of. They are three committees.
A follow-up question. Why is it that in your manifesto, you guys have put so much focus on the feeding program, yet you have other mandates as the vice chair, and you keep speaking about hungry people? Do you have any statistics to prove that you have any data of these people, or is it just an empty promise to the students?
Thank you for the question. I would like to say that our manifesto is not heavily emphasizing on the feeding program. It has put weight on the feeding program and the fund for the social welfare funds. That's one of the things that we put heavy weight on.
So my question is, why?
As the vice chairperson, I'm mandated with the responsibility of catering for the social welfare of students.
Thank you. This is a question to all of you concerning the manifestos. I want to hear, starting from my far left, if you share
So, to the audience, this is a warning. If I see any member from Ansteel coming to the front to do anything, you will lead to a disqualification of the debate. I think when we began the debate, we started with rules. Kindly let's adhere to the rules of the forum.
silence, please. So my question goes to all of you. Do all of you share the manifestos you have? Do you share, or were you present when the chairperson and you? Was it drafted by both of you, or the chairperson drafted the manifesto himself? I'd like to hear, starting from the far left, going with you.
We drafted the manifesto together. I and Mr. Hillary, we did draft the manifesto together.
Thank you. Thank you. So you drafted together.
This manifesto was drafted by Mr. Wycliffe, myself, and the members.
So both of you bear responsibility of any decision here.
Yes.
But earlier you denied, so earlier you denied. Thank you. So my question goes to Esther. you're saying in this manifesto there will be weekly deep cleaning of hostels, lecture halls, toilets, and the food courts. And these things, they will be led by student inspection teams. So I'd like to know, who are these guys who are going to clean these hostels? Are they students or are they other people that you don't know? Because from my knowledge, there are staffs who always do that. And then two, this is your team. Are they doing it voluntarily or is there a pay attached to that? And then the last question is, you're saying you also introduce an emergency response unit. That unit will be trained on first aid, fire safety, disaster management, and you will provide a toll-free helpline and a rapid response fund. So I'm here asking myself, this is a whole team you're going to train. Have you calculated the cost impact that will cost you as you train this team? And this team, is it students? And also, concerning the fund, under whose budget are you going to do all these things?
Okay, thank you for that question. On the question of deep cleaning, the Vice Chairperson is the head of the Social Welfare and Gender Committee, right? And you cannot study in an area that is dirty, right? It isn't meant for the welfare of the students. So, together we will go together with the club Gemma, the Jkusa Society Environmental Management Association. We will collaborate to always be doing the cleaning of school, the hostels, in collaboration with the home reps, the non-residentials, and all the rest. And we are on the top of the emergency number. And on the top of the emergency number, and also the training of volunteers. One thing is that we will partner up with Red Cross. Red Cross offers free voluntary training, and and also give certificates. If a volunteer doesn't have a certificate also, we will make sure they are going to assist in it. We are looking at the welfare of the students.
So my question is, so the Gemma Club, what I'm getting, they will be responsible for cleaning the hostels, the toilets, the food goods, the Gemma Club.
No, we are working in collaboration with them.
In collaboration. So that means you have another team that will be working in collaboration with Gemma.
We will be looking for partnerships, like for example,
Yes, I'm understanding that. So it means anytime you're looking for partnership, you yourself, you're an entity.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you'll have another team
yes.
that will be cleaning these hostels. So which team is this? The volunteers that will volunteer to clean the hostels. And what about the rapid response fund?
Okay. In terms of the emergency number, we are looking at, in terms of the emergency number, we are looking at training people to first of all know how we are going to use to rapidly, because for example, let's say a friend is in danger. One thing we have to do is, one thing somebody has to do is not look for another number to assist the friend. they do it solely freely? Do you have yes or no? We need a partnership. It is a partnership, right? Have you consulted with the Red Cross to inquire whether this is something that they will be willing to partner with you? Do you have evidence? What did Red Cross say?
They will say that we will talk more about it, and I want
And the last one. So it means the staff that are employed to clean our hostels, they are doing a pathetic job. Yes or no? Yes? It's not the best. They are trying. Thank you so much. And have you ever cleaned the hostels? Have you ever tried cleaning one of the hostels, you yourself? But one day you can enter on 6 and clean it.
Thank you. My question goes to Ms. Wangari. You claim previous Congress sittings passed bursary recommendations that were never auctioned. Give us a specific case, example of one of these motions. Is blocking its implementation right now, and what is your very first step you will take on day one to unblock it?
Thank you so much for that question. My very able chairperson, Mr. Wycliffe Omondi, tabled a bursary motion. The motion suggested increment of slots per school from 5 to 10, but at the moment, it still is 5 slots per school. When I get into office, I will ensure that this motion is implemented. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the response. However, there is a question you have not answered. What exactly is blocking its implementation right now?
Thank
And
you.
what is the very first step you will take on day one to unblock it? That's what.
Thank you so much for the question. I cannot speak in behalf of the past regime. I do not know why they did not implement it. But what I can say myself is, as I tabled in my manifesto, the very first thing would be a whole new bursary process through the portal.
Another follow-up. You mentioned that you cannot be, yes, with the previous committee, right? But you have to have done your research at some point as to why things are not running well. So, in your research, did you do the research? In your research, what is blocking its implementation right now, and what is the very first step you will take?
Thank you very much. With my research, the research that I conducted, I have stated also that there has been constant interference with the Social Welfare and Gender Committee. That there has been external influence on this committee. Hence, this was not implemented. And as I said in my manifesto, I will ensure independence of my office. I am not here to be a flower girl. I am here to work.
Another follow-up, kindly. It is quite commendable that you did the research. So tell me, who is interfering with these processes?
Thank you. As I said, it is external influence. Members of other executive members. If you look personally, the chairperson has even been in the committee itself. This is interference and this is unconstitutional.
Thank you.
My question goes to you next year. And by asking this question, I just want to know how you tackle something. So let's assume there an assault happens off campus here in Georgia. Okay, it is outside the university jurisdiction, but involves two JKU students. The victim wants you as the vice chair to mediate it internally without involving the police. Okay. So I want you to give me a step-by-step way on how you handle a student who refuses to go to the authorities.
As the vice chairperson, I'm going to find out who the student is, have a communication with them, conduct research using the JQuat security team, and acknowledge what happened. If the student is hurt, we can take them to the JQuat hospital so that they can get medication or even health help. And when they decide to talk about what they feel, and even if it was like a sexual harassment or something like that, we can get them through the social welfare committee and help them through their the process that they need to require, get them the help they require through therapy or talking to them like students.
Thank you for your response. Then I'll ask you this question. Does it mean that the university has more power than the national government?
No, it doesn't.
Then why solve it internally?
Maybe the student doesn't want their private information being leaked out and they want to stay private. So you have to protect their privacy.
This question goes to Madam Millicent. Madam Millicent, are you aware of the Linda Comrades Initiative? Is it yours? A yes or no? Are you aware
Yes.
of the Linda Comrades Initiative?
Yes.
Is it yours? Yes or no?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Okay. Well, a first-year female student comes to you terrified, reporting of a sexual harassment by a senior lecturer. She refuses to go to the police station because she fears failing the same unit. Walk us through the exact systemic legal protocol you will use to ensure that this student is safe and the lecturer is held accountable. Underline the word exact, systemic, and legal process you will take.
In a chance whereby a student is sexually assaulted by a lecturer who has the mandate to facilitate learning in the school assaults a student and the case comes to my office, the first response it will be the post-rape care attention. I'll first have the victim of the rape. I'll first talk to the victim of the rape, make sure that she has calmed down and that she will not be afraid that the same might happen even on the way to hospital. I proceed to the Jkusa hospital for collection of evidence and medical attention. And then from that, now that the student, you say the student doesn't want the police to be involved, right? I talk to the student, let the student know how reporting the case will be of help, in that it will help prevent further sexual assaults within the student's body. And if the student is still not willing, we will have the issue solved by the gender committee and then taken to the guidance and counseling officers, which might further proceed to the security officers. From there, it can be well handled.
Thank you. To the next candidate, kindly answer the same question. Today.
If a student has been sexually harassed by a lecturer, first of all, we'll have to take the girl for counseling to one of the counselors in the counseling unit on the school. And then the lecturer has to be reported to also the dean of students. And then after that, after the girl has gotten counseling, we'll see if she's being able to go to report to the police, and then it can go to the national level. Yes.
First of all, I want to say that any sexual offender is a criminal. Secondly, there is an administrative procedure to be followed in the case. The first thing is to seek medical attention for the victim. As such, you'll also be able to deduce evidence from it. Then you work in liaison with the Office of the Security and the Office of the Gender. Thank you.
When a sexual harassment case happens to a student and it is from a member of JQuat as a lecturer or any staff member, the first thing we're going to do is to make sure that the student gets the health care that they deserve before doing anything else. Make sure that their mental well-being is okay, and then we can speak to the student and they can tell us what happened. And as we find the solution, we try and get to the person or the perpetrator who committed the act. We engage with the security of the school JQuat. They're the ones who are going to get the person and get them arrested, and then get them to the local officer or local police station around the area.
Thank you.
Okay, my question goes to Miss Esther. In your manifesto, you clearly stated that you shall establish JQuat Student Circle for low interest loans and savings, right? Okay. How do you plan to do that, taking into consideration that you are a student?
Okay, so thank you for the question. The student circle will be able to assist students who to be able to be taught to be save money and also keeping it together. Now, the chairperson, Guava, is the one who is going to go and resource mobilization since it's under the docket of the chairperson. And then after that, I'll just say that that is under the docket of Nguava, but we did include it in our manifesto together, yes.
My first follow-up question, kindly. Do you know the process of forming a circle?
Yes, you have to go through the board of the circle members.
Kindly pardon again. The process of forming a circle, for it to be effective, since you are here for one term, right? How do you plan to do that in that one term that you're supposed to be there as a vice chairperson?
Again, it's under the docket of the chairperson. It is an idea, but we just included it together, yes.
So you take into consideration it is just a vision or an initiative, you are planning to do it?
We are planning to do it, yes.
Thank you. My question goes to all the aspirants. As the constitutional chair of the Social Welfare and Gender Committee, the burden of addressing sexual and gender-based violence on this campus falls squarely on your desk. Let us be brutally honest. We don't need another awareness campaign. Students already know what SGBV is. What they lack is trust in the reporting system. When a vulnerable student comes to you, having been assaulted by a powerful figure on this campus, walk us through the exact confidential mechanism you will use to ensure their case is escalated without their identity becoming hostile gossip. And how will you force a legal cautious university administration to actually take punitive action? We will start with Ms. Millicent.
I would like to acknowledge that SGBV is a serious issue, and anyone committing the SGBV is violating one's human rights. In a case whereby a student has been assaulted, in the case whereby a student has been assaulted, the student doesn't want the identity to be revealed. I am aware of the Data Protection Act, which says that personally identifiable data should not be exposed without consent of the owner. So the data will not be, the exact details of the students can be kept confidential if the student is afraid of maybe the high authority taking the matter to some place, maybe compromising anything. In such a case, I liaise with the Gender and Social Welfare Committee and the Guidance and Counseling Office to offer counseling to the student who has been assaulted. After that, I'll liaise with the security office, to ensure that the issue is handled with urgency. In addition, if by any chance any student is sexually assaulted, you can raise concern to the main campus security contact center. I'm going to share the contact. You can have it in your phones because the contact is 0709715815. That is the main campus security contact center.
Thank you. We'll proceed to the next candidate.
Okay, yes, we do say we don't need another awareness campaign, but also, yes, it is in the law, but we require what is implementation. So as in, for example, the USIU Africa, they did launch up psychological first aid PFA, and they saw an increase in 50% of students reporting their physiological issues. So as the party have said that you don't want the exposure of the students' issues, it will only be confined around the dean, who is a council member, and also the vice chairperson, as she's the head of the social welfare and gender committee. Yes.
Before you proceed, you have given us what is going on, but what are your actual steps that you will take to ensure that this remains a thing of the past? You have not answered that part. I will repeat the last part of the question. Walk us through the exact confidential mechanism you will use to ensure their case is escalated without their identity becoming hostile gossip, and how will you force a legally cautious university administration to take punitive action against the perpetrators?
Okay, so first step is the students require counseling, right? So we'll go first to the dean for counseling, and okay, pass, sorry, pass.
Thank you.
I said, and I will repeat, that sexual harassment will not be tolerated within the confines of this university. Let us start there. Secondly, I am aware that there's a sexual harassment policy in place that provides for means of reporting. However, in your case, when the student does not want their identity to be known, then I, in conjunction with the Social Welfare and Gender Committee, will establish a unanimous reporting system. But at the end of the day, the perpetrator has to be held liable.
You mentioned that they will be held accountable. You mentioned that you will work with your gender committee, but this is a generic answer. I kindly elaborate step by step and tell us how you will do this.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Assume said student has come to you immediately after Jkusa event. They've been sexually harassed and they've come to you. So run us through.
Thank you. The first step, and always the first step, is to advise the student to report. The first step is to advise. After on reporting is where we have now the medical care of the student, where we collect the evidence and we submit it to the gender office and the security office. But secondly, in your case, if the student does not want their identity to be known, since I'm not in office, so I have not established the unanimous reporting system yet, I can follow up with the student to report unanimously, report the person. We don't need to identify the student. Have I answered your question?
You answered it partially, but let us proceed to the next candidate. Thank you.
The first action when a student is harassed is usually to make sure that they get the right medical care. So if a student comes to me immediately after an event and they say they've been sexually harassed, we're going to make sure we take them to the nearest hospital. If it's the JQuat hospital, make sure that they get the medication or the health help that they require. After that, we can talk to them, find out what happened. If there's evidence to be collected, the evidence is collected. If they want to keep their names or privacy, we can make sure that we report it for them in a different name so that they don't get discovered. And to make sure that these people are held accountable, we're going to be liaising with the security of JQuat and make sure that the person or the staff member or whoever was the perpetrator of the harassment is actually held accountable by the police, and they're going to put policies to make sure that in any case or any situation that this happens, the staff member or even the student is taken to Nini prison or jail.
Thank you very much. Okay. Another quick rapid fire question. Yes or no? Yes or no? The mandate of mental welfare and the gender issues, they fall under your docket. We all agree. Does JQuat have a sexual and gender-based violence policy? Yes or no? Let's start with you.
No, it doesn't.
No, there's a sexual harassment policy instead.
None is it. No.
No. So my question goes to Miss Anne. So from your background in law, and because you're vying for the vice chair seat, you are under the Social Welfare and Gender Committee, right? So I would like for you to tell us what is gender.
Thank you. Gender in itself is a social construct associated with either male or female. But sex is the biological aspect of it.
Thank you. So my question is, we have said that all of you have agreed that we do not have a SGBV policy, but we have a sexual harassment policy. Please tell the audience what is the difference between sexual harassment and sexual gender-based violence. What is the difference between the two?
Thank you very much. Sexual and gender-based violence is defined and has various forms: physical violence, sexual violence, mental violence, even economic violence. However, sexual harassment is explicitly, I mentioned sexual violence. So sexual is a form of SGBV.
Thank you. So
So we know that in JQuat, we do not have an SGBV policy. And we know that the Campus Me Too movement have been pushing for that SGBV policy, but it has not yet come into action. Are you aware of that? What knowledge do you have about that policy and why it's not in action?
Thank you very much for that question. Apart from Campus Me Too, I'm also a member of the Badili Africa movement, which was pushing for the review of even this sexual harassment policy in itself. I cannot tell the audience why exactly there's been a hindrance to the review of the sexual harassment policy. However, I can't say for a fact that there is need for that to be reviewed, and the gender policy of the 209 gender policy also, and the introduction or the reviewer to include SGBV at large.
So, a follow-up question, but I will let Miss Esther to answer this question. Let's maintain silence. So, still on the matter of the SGBV policy. So, there is a reason why it is being pushed, the sexual harassment policy is being pushed to SGBV policy, right? Have you read the sexual harassment policy yourself?
Yes.
Yes. So what are these issues in sexual harassment policy that are not working, that it's being pushed to the SGBV policy?
Mostly on the mental awareness side.
Okay, so your answer is it is because of the mental aspect.
Yeah, that's one that's not in it currently.
Thank you. Let's move to Madam Millicent. So the same question I have asked Esther, I am pointing it to you. So there is a reason why there is a request to reform the sexual harassment policy to become the sexual gender-based policy, right? There are issues that have been noted in that policy. Have you gone through the sexual and harassment policy?
Yeah.
So what are these issues in this policy that are being pushed to be reformed?
In the first case, the sexual harassment is being pushed to become the SGBV policy. So that in that case, the offenders will be able to be accountable from a higher perspective, in that they not only assaulted the victim, but they also did it from a gender degradation perspective.
Are you sure about what you have just stated?
It's not from the harassment policy, no.
So my question is, for a policy to be pushed for reformation, there is something about that policy that is not making sense. And that is the question I'm asking. What about the sexual harassment policy does not make sense for it to be pushed to become an SGBV policy from your research from reading from the sexual harassment policy?
The offenders' needs and gender rights are not taken into consideration in that case.
Okay, let's move to Madam Nexi.
The sexual harassment policy is being moved to gender-based violence policy because when you just specify sexual harassment, it narrows down to a type of harassment. But when you say gender-based violence policy, it broadens up the different types of harassment and it covers up all the types of harassment that are going to be faced.
So the SGBV policy is being pushed for because, as she has said, the SGBV has different forms. So to clarify, sexual harassment does not talk about mental health issues. This is about SGBV. So my final question goes to Miss Esther. What is the difference? between a survivor and a victim?
A victim is whoever has already faced the situation, and a victim can be a survivor can be a victim, but a victim does not always become a survivor. Yes.
Thank you very much, everyone. We are coming to the end of the debate, and I will ask each of us to give a final parting shot in 1 minute. We can begin with Miss Nexi.
I am thankful for this opportunity, and I am here to advocate for representations. As a student from Mombasa campus, I understand the distance in communication in all satellite campuses, and I am going to make sure that communication and representation is done properly for all the diaspora campuses. And I know that when we work together, we're going to make sure that all the campuses don't feel like they're left out. I'm here to stand for students and make them feel that they're included in the Jkusa policy. Thank you.
Esteemed students of JQuat, if you want student-centered leadership, if you want a government for the people, of the people, and by the people, vote for Wycliffe Omondi and Wangari.
Okay. The reason I'd say that Ngova and I are the best candidates for these positions, and because we have already been in the Jkusa before, we have already had the experience, and we have already seen the gaps that require fixing. So this Jkusa, we are also for the people, by the people, in this Jkusa government.
Students of JQuat, the office of the chairperson and the vice chairperson is here to serve the students. You, the students, have put us in that office. And in the office, we are there to defend you, defend your rights, and make leadership work for you, not work above you.
Thank you so much. We wish you all the best. You can have your seat. So up next, we are going to be having the chair debate. So kindly do not leave. Stay tuned.
The persona Chakatega. Mrembo akushe kasoro. Anuna kendi kaka kako. Aniyong nani mama. tere kondo lago no anna kendi kakalako anyung mani mama tere kondo lago no samara yung nyuka kende Allo mucha mucha badunda ikino letno ali yung nyuka kende mucha mucha badunda